When you hear the name Jon Bon Jovi, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? The iconic frontman of the legendary rock band Bon Jovi, right? The man who rocked stadiums, delivered electrifying performances, and gave us timeless hits like Livin' on a Prayer and It's My Life. But what if I told you, behind all the glitz, glamour, and roaring crowds, Jovi has been silently battling something far more devastating than any challenge he's faced in his career. A heartbreaking diagnosis that has shaken him to his core, not just as a rock star, but as a human being. And this time, it's not about sold-out concerts or platinum records, it's about his life. So what tragic health condition has Jon Bon Jovi been diagnosed with, and how is he coping with it behind closed doors? Stay with us as we uncover the heartbreaking truth that has changed the life of this rock legend forever. Imagine pouring your heart and soul into your music, only to hear the word no again and again. That was Jon Bon Jovi's reality. Born in New Jersey in 1962, he carried a dream larger than life, but was met with door after door slammed shut. Rejection from record labels tested his resolve, but Jon refused to quit. By day, he worked odd jobs, including mopping floors as a janitor in a recording studio, a place that constantly reminded him of the success he craved, but couldn't yet touch. By night, he poured his heart into his music, hoping that one day someone would listen. With nothing but grit and a burning desire to make it big, Jon Bon Jovi stood on the edge of giving up, but something inside him kept pushing forward. Little did the world know, the voice scrubbing studio floors would soon be the voice that filled stadiums around the globe. Picture this, a young Jon Bon Jovi, still a nobody in the music world, clutching a demo tape of his song Runaway, knowing deep down it had something special. But without a record deal, it was just another song lost in the crowd. Refusing to give up, Jon did something bold. He convinced a local DJ to give Runaway a spin on the radio. That moment changed everything. The song caught fire, lighting up the airwaves and capturing the attention of listeners. Phones rang off the hook, and suddenly everyone wanted to know, who is this guy? The buzz reached the ears of record executives, and before Jon knew it, he was signing his first record deal. But Jon wasn't about to go it alone. He quickly gathered a group of talented musicians, and together they formed the band that would soon become legendary, Bon Jovi. It was no longer just a dream. Jon had kicked open the door that so many others had slammed shut, and this was just the beginning. The world had no idea what was about to hit them. In 1986, Bon Jovi released their third studio album, Slippery When Wet, and within weeks it exploded like wildfire. Songs like Livin' on a Prayer and You Give Love a Bad Name weren't just hits, they became anthems. Stadiums were packed, fans screamed their lungs out, but behind the glamour of sold-out shows and chart-topping success was an unforgiving storm of pressure. The band was thrust into a grueling, relentless cycle of touring, performing night after night in different cities, barely catching their breath. The demand to keep the momentum going was enormous. There was no room for failure. Exhaustion began to creep in, and the weight of fame threatened to break them. But Jon Bon Jovi refused to crack. With every city they conquered, the band's bond grew stronger, and their music resonated deeper. The world had fallen in love with Bon Jovi, but staying at the top, that was a battle they were still learning how to fight. The flashing light, the deafening screams of adoring fans, and the constant rush of being on stage, it all looked like a dream from the outside. But behind the scenes, Jon Bon Jovi was unraveling. By the early 1990s, the band had achieved global superstardom, but the relentless cycle of touring, recording, and promoting felt like a never-ending treadmill. Jon was drained, physically, mentally, and emotionally. The pressure to stay on top weighed on him like a boulder. Every morning felt like a battle to get out of bed, and the joy of making music began to dim. One day, during a long and silent car ride, the weight of it all hit him like a tidal wave. In a moment of crushing despair, Jon seriously contemplated jumping out of the moving car just to escape it all. The fame, the expectations, the exhaustion. He was suffocating in success. Yet even in his darkest moment, something held him back. Deep inside, a flicker of resilience refused to let him give up. But the battle was far from over, and Jon knew that if he didn't find a way to heal, the very dream he had fought so hard for would consume him entirely. Night after night, the grueling pace of nonstop tours, endless performances, and the pressure to deliver perfection was taking its toll. His body was spent, his mind running on empty, but the show had to go on, or so he thought. Then it happened. In the middle of a performance, under the blinding stage lights, Jon's body finally gave in. His knees buckled, his vision blurred, and suddenly, he was on the ground. Gasps rippled through the crowd as his bandmates rushed to his side. For a few terrifying moments, Jon was completely still. When he finally came to, dazed and weakened, it was as if his body was screaming a message he could no longer ignore. Stop. Rest. That moment became a wake-up call. Jon realized that no matter how high he climbed in fame, he was still human. And if he didn't slow down, his dream would break him. Not because he wasn't strong enough, but because even the strongest hearts need time to breathe. Fame and fortune could not shield Jon Bon Jovi from the harsh reality of being human. Just as he thought he had found stability in his career and personal life, a devastating health diagnosis shattered his sense of invincibility. The details were kept private, but the weight of it was undeniable. Jon, known for his boundless energy and electric stage presence, suddenly found himself grappling with physical limitations he never anticipated. Simple tasks became challenging, and the fear of how this would affect his music, his voice, and his future loomed heavily over him. Yet, in true Bon Jovi spirit, he refused to let it break him. Instead of surrendering, he poured his energy into his craft, recording, writing, and performing, as if his life depended on it. But behind the charismatic smile and rock star persona was a man quietly battling a storm, determined not to let it steal his passion. Every performance became a statement of defiance, every song a cry of resilience. The crowd saw a rock icon, but Jon knew he was now fighting a battle that no amount of fame could protect him from, and he wasn't ready to let it win. October 30th, 2021, when Jon was scheduled to perform at a highly anticipated fan event in Miami, Florida. Fans were filled with excitement, ready to witness an intimate performance from their rock idol. Everything seemed perfectly normal until it suddenly wasn't. Moments before Jon was about to take the stage, he underwent a routine COVID-19 test, and to everyone's shock, it came back positive. Without hesitation, Jon was forced to leave the venue immediately and isolate himself. His bandmates carried on the performance without him. While Jon reassured his fans and the media that his symptoms were mild, he confidently stated that he was fully vaccinated, feeling fine, and expected a full recovery. But what no one realized at the time was that this unexpected illness would become a pivotal moment in Jon's life, and possibly the very thing that would permanently alter his career. By the time Jon contracted COVID-19, fans had already started noticing subtle changes in his voice. His once powerful and soul-stirring vocals had begun to weaken over the years, especially during live performances. High notes that once came effortlessly now seemed like a struggle, and his voice often sounded thinner and strained. But after recovering from COVID-19, things took a turn for the worse. Fans noticed a dramatic decline in his vocal strength, and his 2022 tour made it painfully obvious that Jon was struggling more than ever to perform like he used to. Speculation began to spread like wildfire. Could COVID-19 have caused permanent damage to his vocal cords? And shockingly, science suggests that this theory might not be too far off. Studies have shown that the virus can cause inflammation in the respiratory system, including the lungs, throat, and vocal cord. In fact, many professional singers who had contracted the virus reported long-term vocal issues, such as weakened breath control, reduced vocal strength, and even nerve damage. And for Jon Bon Jovi, who was already dealing with vocal cord deterioration, the added blow of COVID-19 may have pushed his voice into irreversible decline. But Jon didn't give up. He hit the road for his 2022 tour, hoping to prove to the world that he still had what it takes. However, the reality was heartbreaking. Night after night, Jon struggled to deliver the powerhouse performances he was known for. His voice cracked, he fought to reach high notes, and fans could visibly see that he was straining. Some speculated that his battle with COVID-19 had damaged his vocal cords permanently, and sadly, it seemed that the evidence was right there on stage. And while Jon put on a brave face for his fans, behind closed doors, the struggle was far more painful than anyone could imagine. After decades of being on top of the world, the man who once dominated rock and roll now faced the terrifying reality that his voice, the very thing that defined his career, may never fully recover. But his battle didn't just end with his physical health. What many don't know is that Jon Bon Jovi has also quietly struggled with mental health challenges throughout his career. The pressure of maintaining his status as a rock legend, combined with the gradual loss of his iconic voice and now the lingering effects of COVID-19, placed a heavy burden on his mental and emotional well-being. And while he continues to put on a strong front, those closest to him know the heartbreaking reality he's facing. The question now lingers in the air. Will Jon Bon Jovi ever regain his legendary voice? Or has the combination of time, vocal cord damage, and the after effects of COVID-19 brought his singing career to an unexpected and heartbreaking halt? One thing remains certain: Jon Bon Jovi is still a fighter, but the battle he's facing now may be the toughest one of his entire life.